Ebusuya memo okwaba edo be ye PhD TV ebusuya na makacho say Ghana manyosema echegu hot political update afinso de anything about news biale ba betom biale de ba bedom e praso mu eso ebusuya sanso ne papa ona bo Kennedy akompere kon ne Japan bema ba bemo nzizo ansa na ya me odada so ye Kennedy Japan fana an odada na mpompo Kennedy akompere kon ne Japan nya me hira no beba an obeba chese nsusu bi urade yankopon ahye afa ne ho bia no ebebem ansa na ona bo Kennedy akompere kon ne Japan we free mo ebusuya Anas versus Kennedy akompere kon ne Japan US court case ne de ade ekoso den ai nti obi abeka kire se na Anas yama no ye de $80 million de ama Anas na se Anas nkodi na muntua ne nipa kro na adwene na nye dwuma oyale onimi de oyeka court ya wode Anas sika biala onfam kan kire ohye onhye Kennedy se Kennedy kokotu sika bia fama ya Anas sia ai ni na sa Anas se mi hia sika $18 million toppable dollars e de African Japan ho efise me ye hiani asema Anas de akokota oka ho no so ye hiani na tesa obi hiani a otin be bi na Kennedy Japan peso okunu na busuya ananu ada enwa tese nsem bi kokopie mu ekoso Anas ekoso okota e between eye honorable Kennedy akompere ko hin Japan lawyer no eni eja ye judge na owo ye otiasem no so no efise abra Julie no ewie omo no ede no omo submit bibia document na de kokoma ye chese judge no se onje na onhwem de de aba no ye bibia ye Julie no so onye oni anything about law ono no hwe nipa no na humo bro de to nipa no de we a behave ono hwe e no de judge no nsem de kire na we ne nyoma de kokoma ye judge no na ebusia abre ode ansem ne kokoma ye judge no na judge ni everyday judge no ready na ona boken no lawyer no sorry no say no objection my lord debi adina wo kan no juru na asem adina ode abre document ode abre ni na ebusia ana judge my lord enye ne kore baby wo mu atusini ana sarwe ana so atiwe wa fake pa wa fake akaza in fact wa fake ama eye juru no agina tum enti ebusia ana say my lord misrew asem no fa juli foforo fa bro form bra na omonhwe no mon transfer no mon kan asem na foforo ane ende ye hono be ye banta we kana we aka na Anas lawyer no so eka ebusia recording we kire se ni hina dia dance ye o se hono aka se ye record ye nya video na de batch recording dia obetuma ye ti recording hono ma abipia che se ono aboken lawyer ene che se judge ne on your oma evidence upon evidence a che se asem no enko trial am no ka se asem akọ trial aha judge ne dwem no say asema Kennedy lawyer ken edimu akwa no de BBC ye Julie da me choose wo mo so mo metra asem no so no we biri mo mani so ane nti we biri we mani so de ande asem no so anko trial bi yes anko memfa new jury e fa mo mra nti bu so entie de koso e wo hono.
This is what the jury said. In our initial finding, we awarded $18 million with a breakdown of presumed damages $5 million, actual damages $5 million, and punitive damages $8 million.
We're done.
No, Judge. I'm requesting a mistrial. The court to consider punitive damages in the initial, and you can't mold the verdict. I'm once again requesting a remitter based upon that, and a new trial should be granted based upon that response, Judge. They were not considered. They were outside of your. I'm just making a record, Judge. Now, if I could. Those are outside your instructions. They were required to follow your instructions. They didn't follow your instructions. You're not permitted to mold that verdict because that's not form. A judge can only mold form. For instance, there's a lien, and you can mold the lien if the parties agree. You could pre-tax versus post-tax income. The judge is permitted to mold the verdict based upon the specific evidence that was presented. You are not allowed to mold that verdict. That's a remitter. There should be a new trial granted, and unfortunately, they did their job, and we should send them home.
Judge, basically, my thought is on their form, which is what was submitted to the court, it did state that it was presumed damages. On that basis, I believe that the instruction that Your Honor should send back was that the punitive damages and the actual damages were not included in that judgment.
Mr. Corson.
I'd like to see the law, Judge. I think Your Honor is more than equipped than either of us to understand that when the jury sends that back and they haven't followed your instructions, and you can't send them back to re-deliberate, had they had that question during deliberations, you could have given an instruction, a curative instruction, and brought them in and said, punitive damages if not to decide, just decide. First of all, there should have been actual damages because there was only presumptive damages presented. There were no actual damages. And Judge, it's just simply a mistrial. It's a mistrial. We need to go no further.
Okay, so Mr. Corson, it's your request that we discharge the jury, right?
We discharge the jury and you declare a mistrial, you put it back in the hopper, we'll be back in 6 to 8 weeks, either with Your Honor or another judge.
Okay, and what's your request, Mr. Chair?
My request is a curable. Is a curable error. I mean, they made a decision. Granted, it wasn't a decision supported by the instructions, but if they did come back and award punitives where they shouldn't have awarded punitives, Your Honor can correct that by curative instruction. So I don't see a mistrial here, but I leave it to your judgment, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm going to ask Mr. Deere a question. So Mr. Corson, please don't interrupt. So Mr. Deere, why is it a valid verdict $5 million on presumed damages, $5 million on the actual damages, and $8 million on the punitive damages?
I would accept that. The only problem I have is that they weren't instructed on punitive damages, so that would go outside the instructions that Your Honor gave them. Yes.
Okay. And so Mr. Corson, you want to say anything?
Yes, Judge. I'll use plaintiff's argument about unringing the bell. We have no idea if the actual and presumed damages would have been different had they followed your instructions. We can't go into their mind. Once they say that, Judge, they anticipated something they shouldn't have. It's not a valid verdict, and more importantly, Judge, the rules do not permit you to mold that verdict. It's not a question. You're not permitted to now change that verdict. Now, maybe if it was a different verdict sheet, things would have been different. If it was broken down separately, they would have had more clarity, but they didn't. But Your Honor is not permitted, once you find that out, to do anything else but cause a mistrial, because that verdict has been returned and it cannot be cured. You cannot go back and have them reconvene.
Well, Judge, this all boils down to Mr. Corsten's own insistence that we take punitive damages off the original verdict sheet. If you remember what I did, I put it on the second page, and then we had a break saying return to. So I think if they had the original verdict sheet, they would have recognized that they weren't supposed to go beyond the compensatory. But somehow he insisted that we take it off the verdict sheet completely and have a separate verdict sheet. And this is what has created this problem. It's curable, at least I think, but I leave it to your judgment, Your Honor.
Okay, the court's decision is we are going to bring the jury in, we'll discharge the jury, and then keep talking.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Well, please bring the jury in.
What's he? Did you see? Did you hear? What is the judge? What is asma judge in the kind? nyame na mekasa obia nkasem anasa ankasa mu bi Kennedy Kwame Akumpreko ankasa mu bi obia ankasa Ghana ni bi ankasa bi anasa ankasa bi o an announced defense council any Kennedy Kwame Akumpreko Japan council any judge no mu gya hode asie ni na wote dia Kennedy Japan council na ka kire judge no also what you cannot move this verdict you cannot move this or kasa kire judge no he we ni bre kwan so it's about the say ena mu be gina Ghana ha e ka kire Ghana for say munya verdict and that 18 million dollars ye be chase came obi anya bi edi ye be 18 million dollars em obia anya bi edi obia benya bi edie ye bi be wo fufuo di bia wo aye tuoza afiade na ni kire ye ba be breaking fasting di bia wo tuoza afi di bia bo apesie fufuo num ne ade ye gugugu so num ne didi ne anom why not but asemmentesa it had na mu be twa ntro now you know what I know as defense counsel, me Papa Pana Sempa, he speaks so well, very constructive, very, very good. Oh, you're very nice, man. Me Penasem, the lawyer, yeah. Me to me, Casintiana. Oh, yeah,